Damien's birthday party was also the day I closed the net. Amid the clamorous music, I stood on tiptoe and whispered in his ear in the most lingering tone, "Damien, I love you." Then, while his emotions stirred, I pressed the wafer-thin micro-tracker silently against the inside collar of his expensive suit with my fingertip. 3 minutes later, sirens tore through the night. He was pinned to the ground by the SWAT officers. Through the crowd he looked at me and suddenly smiled, "Serena, you won." I turned and bolted into the bathroom, leaning on the cold sink as I vomited until I nearly blacked out. I trembled as I looked at the pale face in the mirror, my hand, without my consent, rising to touch my lower belly. I was pregnant. "Officer Serena, congratulations, your mission is complete." Outside the interrogation room, Captain Lincoln handed me a cup of warm water, his tone betraying restrained admiration. I took the cup, the tremor in my fingertips gave me away. "Did Damien talk?" I asked, my voice rasped like sandpaper. "Still being questioned, he's a hard nut to crack." Lincoln looked at me. "But with the ledger you retrieved, he'll never get out of this life. You did a great service, the department has already awarded you a second-class merit." Second-class merit. Such an honorable decoration. But what circled in my mind was the look Damien gave me as he was pinned down. No anger, no resentment, only a knowing, shattered smile. He said, "Serena, you won." He didn't call me by my undercover name, Agatha, but by my real name, Serena. He had known all along. My heart felt as if an invisible hand had gripped it hard, the pain stealing my breath. Lincoln noticed something was wrong and patted my shoulder. "I know you've had it rough. Those 3 years undercover weren't easy. It's over now, get some proper rest, and they'll set you up with counseling." I nodded, saying nothing. "By the way," Lincoln said, as if remembering something, "Damien specifically asked to see you. He said there's something he wants to hand to you personally." My heart leaped. "What is it?" He didn't say. "Whether to see him or not, it's your decision." I almost made up my mind at once, "I'll see him. I have to go. I must know, how much does he actually know, and what does he intend to do?" I saw Damien again 24 hours later. He wore a gray prison uniform, his hair clipped short, cold heavy handcuffs clamped around his wrists. In just one day, the domineering swagger that had made him seem above everyone else had been worn away completely, leaving only a quiet, exhausted stillness. But when he looked up at me, those deep eyes were still like a dark pool, capable of drawing a person in. We were separated by a thick pane of bulletproof glass, speaking through telephone handsets. "You've lost weight." He spoke, his voice carrying a crackle like an electric current, yet saying the most ordinary domestic remark. My nose pricked, I nearly burst into tears on the spot. I bit my lower lip hard, swallowing every emotion, and put on a cold, businesslike tone, "Damien, you called me here just to say that?" He laughed softly, the vibration in his chest coming through the handset, and it still made my heart flutter. "Serena, you look beautiful in your uniform." He looked at me, his gaze focused and gentle. "It suits you more than those dresses." My disguise collapsed instantly. "When did you find out?" I couldn't help asking. "A long time ago." He said lightly, "starting from the first time you clumsily plied me with drink to get the key to my study." My mind went buzzing and empty. That was 2 years ago. I had thought I had been flawless. "Then why did you?" "Because I wanted to see," he interrupted, a trace of sorrow I couldn't read flashing in his eyes, "to see how far a fraud would go to play a role for a mission. And to see myself, how much I could drink knowing it's poison." His words were like a knife, stabbing precisely into my heart, then twisting it hard. So all the tenderness and lingering closeness of these past 2 years, all that deep affection, it had all been a performance he had been playing along with me. He was laughing at me. A tidal wave of shame and anger surged up, drowning out all the pain. "So, are you satisfied now? Seeing me hand-deliver you in, does that give you a sense of accomplishment?" I asked with a bitter laugh. "No. He shook his head, his gaze dropping to my lower abdomen, his expression growing unusually soft. I'm just a little regretful. My heart missed a beat. What did you want me to come for? What are you going to give me? I forced the topic away. I was afraid that if this continued, I would completely lose control. He raised his handcuffed hands and pressed a folded piece of paper against the glass. It was an ultrasound report. The date was 3 days ago. It was the one I had sneaked to the hospital for pregnancy testing. My world utterly collapsed the moment I saw that ultrasound. It was as if my blood had frozen in an instant, my limbs growing cold as if plunged into an ice cellar. How did he get it? I had clearly destroyed it. You investigated me? My voice trembled into nothing. I was just worried about you. Damien's voice was soft, yet it struck my heart like a sledgehammer. You've been so sleepy lately, and the smell of cooking oil makes you nauseous. Agatha, I may not have been a father, but I know that much. Agatha. He called me Agatha again. The intimate name he'd used for 3 years. Damien. I shot to my feet, almost roaring, you lunatic. What on earth are you trying to do? I don't want anything. He looked at me, his gaze terrifyingly calm. I just want to tell you, Serena, the child is innocent. This is the first and the last child of the Fu family. All my legally owned assets have been transferred to his name through my lawyer. When he's born, he will inherit billions. I don't want your filthy money. I screamed hysterically. I won't give birth to this child either. The moment those words left my mouth, the crack finally appeared in Damien's previously untroubled eyes. He stared at me intently, asking each word as if weighing it. What did you say? I said I won't give birth to your child. The seed of a criminal, he doesn't deserve to come into this world. I spoke without restraint, using the vilest words, stabbing at him like a knife, and stabbing at myself. I know this will hurt him. Only by making him hurt can I slightly ease the humiliation and heartbreak of being deceived and seen through right now. Damien's face went pale in an instant. The hand holding the receiver had veins bulging, the handcuffs clicked softly from his grip. We faced each other across the glass like that, the air seemed to congeal. After a long while, he slowly loosened his hand and slumped back in the chair, as if every ounce of strength had been drained away. Serena, he closed his eyes, and when he opened them again there was only a void of stillness in them. You are cruel. After he finished speaking, he hung up the phone and said to the guard beside him, I'm done seeing him. From start to finish he didn't once look at me. Only when his back disappeared beyond the iron door did I feel all my strength drained away. I slumped into the chair and tears slid silently down my face. I won. I sent him to hell. So why does my heart ache more than his? When I left the detention center, a fine, persistent rain was falling. I didn't hold an umbrella. I let the cold drops hit my face and mingle with my tears. Lincoln's car was parked not far away. He saw me come out and immediately ran over holding an umbrella. Well? What did he tell you? I shook my head, not wanting to speak. Serena, you look awful. Are you feeling unwell? Lincoln asked with concern. It's nothing, maybe I caught a bit of a cold. I offered a casual excuse. Back at the office, everyone looked at me with congratulations and admiration. Serena, you're amazing. You took down the entire Fu Corporation by yourself. From now on you'll be a legend in our bureau. There's a celebration tonight, you can't miss it. I forced a smile uglier than crying and replied to each person in turn. At the celebration, cups clinked and everyone was in high spirits. They loudly recounted the thrills of the operation and insisted that Damien got what he deserved. I sat in the corner, sipping juice in small mouthfuls, the noise and merriment seeming to belong to another world. 3 years undercover felt like a long film, playing back frame by frame in my mind. I remember the first time I saw Damien, it was in an underground fight club. Following the script, I played a naive college girl being chased for debts, and he saved the beauty. He was wearing a black shirt, leaning against the railing with a cigarette between his fingers, Through the curling smoke his gaze was cold and remote. He asked me, "What's your name?" I said, "Agatha." He gave a short, low laugh, "You suit your name." From that day on, I became his canary, moving into his villa halfway up the mountain. Everyone assumed I was just one of Damien's countless lovers and would soon be discarded. Even I believed it. My mission was to stay by his side and gather evidence of his crimes. To remain, I catered to him in every way, flattering and ingratiating myself. He liked obedience, so I was meek and compliant. He liked cleanliness, so I always kept up an appearance of innocent, unworldly naivety. I thought I was acting well. But I forgot, Damien is sharp. He could carve out a bloody path through the mixed-up underworld and take the top seat. How could he not see through my clumsy performance? Thinking back now, from the very beginning he was playing along with me. He kept me by his side perhaps simply because he found it amusing, wanting to see how much chaos a little fox disguised as a white rabbit could stir up. But as the play went on, sometimes even I couldn't tell which lines were real and which were a lie. I remember once I snuck into his study to get my hands on a transaction list. I was caught red-handed by his most loyal thug, Leo. Leo pulled a gun on me on the spot, pointing it at my head, convinced I was a mole. I was terrified out of my wits, sure I was about to be exposed, sure I was going to die there. Just then, Damien appeared. He kicked Leo aside, sheltered me behind him, and his eyes were a kind of ruthlessness I had never seen before. "My people, you dare lay a hand on them?" Leo protested, "Big brother, this woman is sketchy, I saw her rifling through your things with my own eyes." Damien didn't even lift an eyelid. He drew a gun from his waistband and aimed it at Leo's forehead. "I'll say it again, get out." The air in the entire villa froze. In the end, Leo was the first to yield. Grudgingly he put the gun away and retreated. Only the two of us remained in the study. My legs went weak and my whole body trembled. He turned, gently pulled me into his arms, and his palm rubbed my back, soothing me stroke by stroke. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." His embrace was warm, carrying a faint mix of tobacco and cedar that, inexplicably, put me at ease. In that moment I almost forgot who I was, forgot my mission. I leaned into him with greedy comfort. For a brief second I even wished time would stand still. Later, he asked why I had gone to his study. I stuck to the lines I'd rehearsed, my eyes rimmed red, saying plaintively, "I heard you keep photos of your ex in your study." I wanted to see. I wanted to know what she looks like, what she has that keeps you thinking of her. I knew that excuse sounded lame even to myself. Yet Damien actually believed it. Or rather, he pretended to. He sighed, ruffling my hair, his tone laced with helpless affection. "You fool, I don't have any ex-girlfriends." He said, "You're the first, and the only one." That night he took me to his private room. I expected guns, drugs, or piles of cash. But inside, there was only one wall covered in photos. All of them were of me. There are photos of me watering the garden, me awkwardly learning to bake in the kitchen, me curled up asleep on the sofa, all sorts of versions of me that he had secretly photographed when I didn't know. Beside the photos was a safe. He opened it, there were no jewels or gold inside, only a thick stack of letters. These were left to me by my mother. He drew one out and handed it to me. Before she died she said, "If in this life I ever met a woman I truly wanted to marry, I should give these letters to her." My fingertips trembled as I took the yellowed letter. I didn't know how to respond. A mob boss who could kill without blinking had, in front of me, laid bare the softest part of himself with no reserve. Should I feel honored, or should I be afraid? "Agatha," he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on the top of my head, "marry me, will you?" I froze. Marry him? A policeman marry a criminal? It was the most absurd joke in the world. But I looked at the wall covered with my photos, at the sincerity and hope in his eyes, and somehow, as if moved by a ghostly hand, I found myself nodding. Okay. Our wedding was kept very low-key. We only invited a few of his closest confidants. It had no legal force, It was merely a ceremony belonging to his world. I wore the wedding dress he had personally chosen for me, stood by his side, and received everyone's blessings. Everyone said Big Brother had finally found his weakness. For a while I too believed I was special. I even began to imagine that if he weren't a crime boss and I weren't a cop, if we were just ordinary people, how wonderful that would be. We could live like normal spouses, rising with the sun and resting at dusk. I would bear him a child who would be like him, and like me. Once the thought took root, it grew like a vine, crazily sprouting in my heart. I began to feel unlike myself. I would get jealous because he glanced at another woman. I would worry because he stayed out all night. I would ache because he was hurt. I even began subconsciously to delay the progress of tasks, to destroy some trivial pieces of evidence for him. Lincoln noticed my oddness. He pulled me aside to talk, his tone severe. "Serena, have you forgotten who you are? You are a cop. Damien is a criminal, the enemy you must capture with your own hands." "I haven't forgotten," I retorted passionately. "I know what I'm doing." "You know?" Lincoln sneered. "Then tell me why our people missed Damien's shipment last month. Did you leak the information?" "It wasn't me," I denied loudly. But inside, I felt horribly hollow. Before that operation, Damien happened to be hospitalized with a gastric bleed. I tended him tirelessly for 3 days and nights. He took my hand, half joking, half serious, and said, "Agatha, if one day I have nothing left, will you still stay by my side?" How did I answer then? I said, "Yes. Even if you have nothing, you still have me." Then I accidentally knocked over a glass and soaked the phone he had left on the bedside table. The phone was in for repair for 2 days. It was during those 2 days that the police operation failed. Thinking back now, it's all so absurd. The feelings I fancied were mine, the belief that I could sway his true heart, were nothing more than a piece in his plan. He had known I was a cop long ago. He was merely using me, exploiting my feelings, feeding me false information to protect his business. And I, like a fool, willingly allowed myself to be used by him. After the celebration banquet ended, I returned to the dormitory alone. This was the temporary lodging the bureau had assigned me. In 3 years, I had never once come back to live here. The room was tiny, with only a bed, a desk, and a wardrobe. Compared with the half-mountain villa I'd lived in for 3 years, it was worlds apart. Yet this place was my true home. I lay on the cold bed, eyes open, until dawn. The next day, I handed Lincoln my resignation. "On the 3rd day, you're resigning?" Lincoln was surprised. "Why? You've done so much, your future is so bright." "I'm tired," I said. "These past 3 years have worn me out. I want to go somewhere else, start over." Lincoln was silent for a long time. "Is it because of Damien?" I neither admitted nor denied it. "Serena, you're a good cop. Don't let one criminal ruin you," he urged me. I shook my head. "Captain, I've made up my mind. I knew I couldn't stay any longer. I couldn't wear this uniform and accept everyone's praise with a clear conscience. Because I knew I didn't deserve it. I had betrayed my faith, I had fallen in love with someone I shouldn't have. Worse, I was carrying his child. That child was an indelible mark on me, proof of my sin." The resignation went through quickly. I took off the police uniform I had worn for 8 years, folded it neatly, and tucked it into the back of the closet. Then I bought a train ticket to a small town in the south. I wanted to leave this city, to leave everyone who knew me, to go somewhere no one knew my past. As for the child in my belly, I went to the hospital. When I lay on the cold operating table, staring up at the harsh white light, Damien's sad, desperate eyes floated before me once again. He said, "Serena, you are so cruel." He said, "The child is innocent." My heart ached all over, like being pricked by needles. "Doctor," at the last moment I grabbed the doctor's hand, "I'm sorry, I can't go through with it. I don't know why I changed my mind. Perhaps there remained a trace of reluctance in my bones. Perhaps, in my subconscious, I still wanted to leave something behind for that absurd affair between Damien and me. Or maybe I was simply unwilling to let go. Unwilling to give up the small life that was quietly taking root and sprouting in my belly. He was the fruit of sin, but he was also my only thought. I settled down in a southern town called Yunchi. The mountains and waters here are clear and lovely, the people simple and honest, and the pace of life very slow. I spent all my savings to rent a small house with a yard and filled the garden with flowers and plants. I changed my name to Lynn. I told everyone I was a widow whose husband had died young, that I had come here to recover. The townspeople felt sorry for me and were especially attentive. My belly grew bigger by the day. I suffered terribly from morning sickness, everything I ate came back up, and I wasted away to an unrecognizable shadow of myself. Countless nights I woke from nightmares, and Damien was always at the center of them. Sometimes he would hold me gently and call me Agatha. Other times he would look at me with those ice-tempered eyes and say, "Serena, you're merciless." I often sat alone in the courtyard, staring blankly at the sunset on the horizon. I wondered, if back then I had not taken that undercover assignment, would Damien and I have had a different ending? But life has no ifs. From the moment I put on the uniform and took the oath, it was destined that we belonged to two different worlds, forever unable to be together. Damien's case went to trial. I saw him on the news. He wore a prison uniform, escorted by bailiffs, and walked up to the defendant's dock. He had lost a lot of weight and looked much more haggard, but his back was still as straight as ever. The trial lasted 3 days. All the charges against him were upheld, the sentences were combined, and he was sentenced to death, to be carried out immediately. At the moment of the verdict he was very calm, even wearing a faint smile. Through the screen it felt as if he was looking at me. At that moment my tears broke loose. I didn't know whether I was grieving for him, or feeling relieved that this cursed bond between us had finally been closed. The day the execution was carried out, the weather was fine. I sat in the wicker chair in the yard, basking in the sun, and the child in my belly kicked me for the first time. It was a strange sensation, like a little fish swimming inside my womb. I stroked my rounded belly and whispered, "Baby, don't be afraid, Mama's here." From now on, in this world, it would be just the two of us, mother and son, relying on each other. 10 months later, I gave birth to a son. I named him Noah. I hope he can have an ordinary, peaceful life forever, Noah. I also hope he won't forget his father. Although I may never tell him, in my lifetime, who his father is. Noah looks very much like Damien, especially those eyes, deep and bright, like stars in the sky. He is very well behaved, doesn't cry or make a fuss, and from a young age was steadier than children his own age. Raising him alone is hard, but it's also a joy. He is the only light in my life. Days passed like that, quietly, one after another. I thought I had completely severed myself from my past. Until Noah's 3rd birthday, when an unexpected visitor shattered our peaceful life. That day I was in the kitchen making longevity noodles for Noah. Someone knocked on the yard gate. I wiped my hands and went out to open the door. A man in a black suit stood at the door, his face stern, his gaze sharp. It was Leo. Damien's most loyal subordinate. My blood froze the moment I saw him. How could he have found this place? Miss Serena, Leo's eyes were complicated, there was hatred, but more than that a kind of emotion that couldn't be put into words. Long time no see. I instinctively blocked him from the doorway, my voice tight. "What are you here for?" "I'm not here to cause trouble," Leo said. "I just was asked by Big Brother to come and see the little master." His gaze passed over me and fell on Noah behind me. Noah was holding a leather ball, his big black eyes wide with curiosity as he watched us. "Big Brother, knew you'd keep this child all along." Leo's voice hitched a little. "Before he left, he arranged everything. He told me not to bother you, only to protect you and your son from the shadows." My heart clenched sharply. Then why are you here today?" "Because," Leo took a sealed brown paper packet from his coat and handed it to me, this is the last letter Big Brother left for you. He said to read it whenever you were ready. My hand trembled as I took the envelope. Thin, light, yet as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Miss Serena, Leo looked at me, and suddenly with a thud he knelt down. What are you doing? I jumped in fright. I'm doing it for my eldest brother, to thank you. He lifted his head, his eyes rimmed red. Thank you for leaving him this bit of bloodline. After saying that, he kowtowed to me 3 times, then rose, turned, and left without a backward glance. I stood in the doorway, clutching the letter, frozen for a long time. It wasn't until Noah ran over, tugging at my hem, his voice childlike, that he asked, Mama, who is that uncle? I snapped back to myself, crouched down, pulled him into my arms, and the tears I had been holding back finally surged out. In the end I still didn't open that letter. I locked it and the ultrasound report together in a box and hid it in the deepest part under the bed. I was afraid. I was afraid of seeing what was inside the letter. I was afraid he would question me, resent me. Even more afraid he would say he loved me. I couldn't bear either one. Life returned to calm, as if Leo had never appeared. But I knew some things had changed. I know that, in some corner I cannot see, there is a pair of eyes quietly watching over us. That is the last tenderness Damien left to Noah and me. When Noah was 5, he started kindergarten. At a parents' meeting, the teacher asked every child to draw a picture called My Dad. Noah sat at his desk with a sheet of paper and didn't put pen to it all evening. I went over and ruffled his hair. Noah, why aren't you drawing? He looked up at me, his eyes full of confusion and hurt. Mom, all the other kids have dads. Why don't I? I had long expected he would ask that question. In my mind I had rehearsed countless answers. But when he actually spoke the words, my heart still ached as if cut by a knife. I held him in my arms and said softly, Noah has a daddy. It's just that his daddy went to a very, very far away place on a business trip. When will he come back? When Noah grows up, he will come back. What does Dad do for a living? Why does he have to be away so long? I fell silent. How could I tell him? Tell him that his father was a crime boss, a murderer, a man who had already been executed? No. I couldn't. I couldn't let Noah carry such a heavy origin, live under the weight of other people's whispers. I took a deep breath, looked into Noah's clear eyes, and spoke the lie I'd been preparing my whole life. Noah's dad is a hero. He's an undercover cop who sacrificed himself to protect others. Noah nodded, half understanding. So Dad, is he very impressive? Yes. I smiled, but tears slipped down my face. He is the most impressive, the bravest person in this world. From then on, Noah had a hero dad. He would proudly tell every child that his father was a police officer, a great hero. He treated every toy related to police as a treasure. He said that when he grew up, he would become a police officer as brave as his father. Every time I heard him say that, my heart felt as if it were being slowly torn apart. I gave him a polished, brilliant lie, one I would have to spend the rest of my life upholding. I don't know, when he grows up and learns the truth, will he hate me? Hate me for deceiving him, hate me for giving him the blood of a criminal. But I had no choice. This was the last thing I could do for Damien, for Noah. When Noah was 7, I took him back to the city where I used to live. I told no one. I only wanted to show him the place his father once lived. The city had changed a great deal, towering buildings, traffic everywhere. Relying on memory, I found that hillside villa. This place has been sealed off, a notice is pasted on the front gate, and the weeds in the courtyard have grown taller than a person. The former prosperity and clamor have all turned into the broken walls and rubble before us. Mom, what is this place? Noah asked, tugging my hand. This was where a friend of mine used to live. I stood behind the iron gate, looking at every familiar plant and patch of ground, and it felt as if I could still see Damien in a black shirt standing on the second-floor balcony, smiling at me. He said, Agatha, come here. He said, Agatha, marry me. He said, Serena, you win. Scenes from the past surged in like tides, drowning me. I clapped a hand to my mouth to keep from crying out. After leaving the villa, I, as if driven by some impulse, took Noah to Damien's cemetery. He had no tombstone. Because he was a death row inmate, his ashes were not allowed to be returned to his family. This place was only a symbolic grave. Leo had secretly had it built for him. There was no name on the headstone, only a number. I bought a bouquet of white chrysanthemums and placed it before the grave. I said nothing, merely standing there quietly. Noah was very sensible. He imitated me and bowed 3 times toward the tombstone. Mom, is your friend living in here too? I nodded. He was a very, very good person. Then why does he live here? Because, he's too tired, so he's sleeping here. Noah made an uncertain "oh," then reached into his pocket, took out his favorite Ultraman toy, and carefully placed it in front of the gravestone. Uncle, Ultraman is for you. He will protect you and won't let monsters bully you. Children speak without guile, and it broke me down instantly. I held Noah tightly, as if I wanted to press him into my very bones. Damien, do you see him? This is our son. He's kind, he's adorable. He thinks you're a hero. Will you blame me? On the train back to Yunchi, I had a long dream. I dreamt back to 3 years ago, to Damien's birthday party. I hadn't stuck the tracker on him. No sirens went off. After the party, he held me and we danced on the terrace. He asked me, Agatha, make a wish. I said, I hope we can be together forever. He smiled, kissed my forehead and said, silly, we will. Then I woke up. Outside the window, the landscape was rushing backward. Noah was asleep against my shoulder, breathing deeply. I looked at his face, so much like Damien's, and felt a calm settle over me. I knew it was time to make a clean break with the past. Back home, I reached under the bed and took out that long dusty box. I opened it and took out the letter Damien had left me. My hands were still shaking. But I knew I could not run away anymore. I drew a deep breath and tore open the envelope. On the paper was Damien's familiar, vigorous handwriting. There was none of the questioning or resentment I had imagined. Only a few short lines. My wife Serena, to be opened by you alone, do not grieve for me, this is the end I deserve. In my life my hands have been stained with blood, and my feet have trod on bones, I have deserved death. The only light was meeting you. Although this beam of light ultimately sent me into the abyss, I do not regret it. To die at your hand is, Damien, the greatest honor of my life. Take care of yourself and our child. Tell him that his father was a hero. Do not grieve. Damien, final words. At the end of the letter there was also a very ugly little stick figure drawing. A little policeman holding the hand of a little boy. Beside it was written, Noah. I could no longer hold myself together, I collapsed onto the table and sobbed uncontrollably. So it turned out he knew everything. He knew I would leave the child, knew I would tell him his father was a hero. He had even, for me, already decided on the name Noah. He wasn't acting with me. He truly loved me with his life. And I had handed that love to the guillotine with my own hands. I am a sinner. I killed the only man in this world who loved me. That night I ran a high fever. I was delirious, mumbling Damien's name over and over. It was Noah who noticed something was wrong in the middle of the night. With his tiny body, he dragged the phone and called an ambulance for me. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. When I woke, Noah was leaning over my bedside, tears streaking his little face. When he saw I was awake, he burst into tears with a wail. Mom, I thought you didn't want me anymore. I thought you were going to, like Daddy, go far, far away. I held him to my chest, aching, and kissed his forehead. Silly child, how could Mommy ever not want you? Mommy will stay with Noah until Noah grows up, marries, has children. I held him, feeling his warm body, a steadiness in my heart I had never felt before. Damien, rest easy. I will live well. I will carry our child, carry your love, and live on. I will raise him to be truly, just as you hoped, upright, brave, and kind. A real hero. After I was discharged, my life seemed to fall back into place. Driving Noah to and from school every day, making his meals, playing games with him. Only, there was an extra photo on my bedside table. It was Damien's. The one I had secretly taken from his private room. In the photo he wore a white shirt, standing in the sunlight, smiling like an innocent youth. It was taken before we met, when I had been following him on the quiet. Back then, he hadn't yet become the feared Mr. Damien everyone spoke of. He was simply the sunny Damien. Every night, I talk to the photograph. I tell him what Noah learned today, mention the funny things he said. I tell him the flowers in the yard have bloomed again, and how beautiful they are. He never replies, he simply watches me quietly with those gentle eyes. I know he is listening. Noah started elementary school. At the opening ceremony he spoke as the representative of the new students. He wore his little uniform, stood beneath the national flag, his voice clear and bright. He said, "My dream is to become a police officer. Because my father was a great police officer who sacrificed himself to protect us. I want to be like him, to be someone who can protect others." Thunderous applause rose from the audience. I stood at the back of the crowd, watching that small figure on the stage, straight as a young poplar, my eyes gradually filling with tears. In the sunlight, his outline began to merge with the person in the photograph. I felt as if Damien were standing right beside him, pride shining in his eyes as he looked at our son. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. Noah had grown into a handsome, upright young man. He excelled in both character and academics, a star at his school. He was, in my life, my greatest pride. He achieved what he wanted and was admitted to the police academy. On the day he received the acceptance letter, he hugged me, laughing and crying. "Mom, I did it. I'm one step closer to Dad." I laughed and patted his back. "Yes, Mom is proud of you." The night before he packed his things to register at school, the two of us talked for a long time. He suddenly asked me, "Mom, are you hiding something from me?" My heart gave a jolt. "Why do you ask that?" "I've always felt, ever since I was little, that when you look at me, there's always a very sad feeling in your eyes. And you never talk about Dad's specific things, nor do you ever take me to see his comrades or to the martyrs' cemetery." Noah looked at me, his gaze carrying a maturity and sharpness beyond his years. "Mom, I'm grown up. Whatever the truth is, I can handle it." I knew that this day would come after all. The fairy tale I had woven with lies for over a decade had, inevitably, reached the moment it needed to be punctured. I took the box from the bedroom. In front of him, I opened it. Inside were the yellowed ultrasound printout, Damien's final letter, and my police uniform that had been treasured for more than 10 years. Noah examined everything and said nothing. He just sat there, silent for a very, very long time. I didn't know what he was thinking, and I didn't dare ask. I braced myself, ready for his accusations, his anger, even his resentment. "So," he finally spoke, his voice raw and hoarse, "my father was not a hero, but a criminal." "Yes." I closed my eyes and nodded with difficulty. "And you are the one who personally put him in prison, a police officer?" "Yes." My heart sank to the bottom of the valley. I knew the thing I feared most had happened. My son, he would hate me. But Noah's next move caught me completely off guard. He stood up, came to me, opened his arms, and gave me a deep embrace. "Mom," he buried his head against my shoulder, his voice muffled and choked with sobs, "you've worked hard all these years." Tears sprang to my eyes in an instant. I had thought he would hate me, would resent me. But what he said was that I had worked hard. "You don't blame me?" I asked, choking. "Blame you for what?" He lifted his head and wiped away my tears with his hand, his eyes were as red as a rabbit's. "Blame you for giving me life?" Or blame you for raising me alone through hardship, giving me a childhood without shadows? Mom, in my heart, you and he are both heroes. He said he, not Dad. I knew he needed time. I will still go to that police academy. Noah looked at me, his gaze resolute. But not to become him. For you. And, to atone. He intended to spend his life making up for the sins his father had once committed. Noah enrolled at the police academy. On the day he left, I went to see him off. On the train platform he wore a camouflage uniform, posture erect, radiating a vivid, heroic air. He gave me a crisp military salute. Mom, wait for me to come back. I waved at him with a smile, but the tears wouldn't stop. The train started to pull away slowly, carrying my boy toward his future. I stood there, for a very long time. Damien, did you see? Our son, he has grown up. He is braver than we imagined, Kinder, and he loves you even more. He will become a good policeman. He will, for you, walk the straight and honorable path you couldn't finish. As for me, I will keep our home, keep our shared memories, and wait for you. Wait for the day we meet again in another world. When the time comes, I won't lie to you anymore. I'll tell you, Damien, that I love you. From beginning to end, it has always been only you.